set up and start playing the game, all you need to do is pull the background and the identity card decks out from the main deck. We're going to put this aside for now. From here, let's set aside the identities deck and take a look at the backgrounds. First, backgrounds are composed of two different types. There are the acolytes, which are all red, and then there are the investigators, which are blue. No matter how many players you're playing with, there will always be one investigator and one cult leader in the game. If you are dealt the cult leader card, go ahead and reveal it to the rest of the players, flipping it over, and then take your action and victory deck. Let's first take a look at the investigators. There are two different types of investigators. There's the lead investigator and the gumshoes there. Investigators are trying to subvert the cult, so you want to try to make sure nobody else besides you knows that you're an investigator, because if the cult ever finds out that you are you, chances are you will be sacrificed on the next turn, and we don't want you to die. Your objective is to stop the cult. You're trying to basically sow enough discord or gain enough clue tokens, that way the cult cannot perform any more rituals. If you accomplish your mission before the cult accomplishes the number of victories that they have to have within the rituals, depending on player size, you win the game. If, however, every investigator has been sacrificed, you will be out of the game. Now, by default, in a 5 to 6 player game, there's only going to be the one lead investigator. However, with larger games, 7 and 8 players play with a gumshoe, and then 9 and 10 players will play with 2 gumshoes here. If you are playing with a large enough group, you'll want to make sure that all the investigators know who each other are at the start of the game. You can do this by simply having everybody bow their heads, and then having the investigators look at one another, and then bow their heads again, and then everyone can then open their eyes, and you can begin play at that point. Again, the investigator's job, the gumshoe here, protect the lead investigator and stop the cult. You all win together no matter how many of you are alive at the end. Now, the acolytes are always led by a cult leader, and the cult leader will be in the game. The cult leader is a very unique role in the game in that everyone's going to know you're the cult leader, but you'll also get a special action card deck and a success deck that you'll use if and when the rituals are complete. Your job as the cult leader is to guide each mission, make sure that you can find and suss out who the investigators are, and then finally make the decision on who to sacrifice and who not to sacrifice. At first glance, the cult leader is a basically playable moderator, but victory falls squarely on the cult leader's shoulders a lot of times, so you're going to want to make sure whoever your leader is very competent. Again, if you're dealt the cult leader background at the beginning of the game, flip it over so that all players know that you're the cult leader. The other acolytes are disciples, and there are 3 of those in the deck. The disciples don't have anything special about them. Their job is to complete the rituals and find the investigators. Then we have the indictor. The indictor's job, again, you're going to want to make sure you complete the rituals and find the investigators. But once a turn, you must verbally accuse a cultist from being an investigator every single turn. Finally, then we have the pathological liar card. Again, complete rituals, find the investigators. But this has a unique ability on there that says you must never be honest about what you are committing to the ritual or the contents of your hand. You have to tell lies if you're the pathological liar. You can't help it. You're just made this way. Finally, we have the Antiquarian, Eldritch Seeker, Accursed, and the Madman. Each of these play very similar to one another, and it's recommended that you only ever have one of these 4 cards in the stack of backgrounds before you start to deal. The Antiquarian says that you must commit any artifact if it's in your hand. The Eldritch Seeker says you must commit a rune if it's in your hand. The Accursed says you must commit a tome if it's in your hand, and a Madman says you must commit a offering if it's in your hand. So all 4 of those will limit what you are basically force you to commit a certain type of component to the ritual, regardless of whether you need it or not. What we'll do now is set up for a 5-player game. For this, we're going to take the cult leader card, the lead investigator card. We're going to put aside the 2 gumshoes. I'm going to take the 3 disciples, which would fill up the last 4, and then I'm going to take the pathological liar and put that into the deck. And then what I'll do from here, is shuffle. You know what? Let's take out one of these disciples, and let's add in randomly one of the 4 special backgrounds. So we'll just take that one there. I'm going to put those others away without revealing what I didn't choose. And then we're going to basically fill out the rest of this deck. And we're going to flip these 2 cards over since we know we're going to be using those. So then I'm going to take the 3 remaining cards, put this one back without looking at it. Now, I have a background for every player that's going to be in the game. Now, in the game, all players are referred to as cultists. With the exception of the the cult leader, they are basically no longer considered a player because they won't actively be putting in any components to the, or committing any components to the rituals. From here, we're going to go ahead and shuffle these. And we're going to deal 1 to each player playing the game. Now, these are all hidden. You're going to look at ours here. We are the Eldritch Seeker, and that's going to be our role. Then we're going to assign everybody a face-up identity card. Now, one of the things here with Outer Gods, this is a Kickstarter project, so we don't have art complete for everything. In fact, a lot of the art that you're seeing here can and will change as we get funding and we hit certain funding levels. We're going to look at some of the identity cards and talk about their powers here. First, we have Miss Wanda Green. She is a librarian, and she has the ability to discard any revealed elder signs when the ritual is being scored. We have Jimmy Gonzalez. He is our gamer. Jimmy gets to look at any committed component of your choice. So Jimmy gets to pick any component that's been committed and make sure that what it is what was said it should be, if that makes sense. Then we have Regina Walter. She is a news anchor. She gets to look at any cultist's hand. And then we have a few other characters here that we're still waiting on art for. Mr. Hank Ellis says the cult leader can recover any card from their action card discard pile. Penelope Hope gets to select another cultist. That cultist must now look at the background of a cultist of their choice. So basically, one of the things that we really wanted to strive for here is never to put too much power in one of these, and to really add any ability that we have to the game is going to add to the social dynamic of it. So you notice Penelope gets to pick another cultist, then that cultist gets to find out somebody's background. For smaller games, we recommend not playing without Penelope or anything that makes you reveal somebody's background or guarantee it. James Smythe gets to stop the cult leader's action phase next turn. Barnabas O'Shea says another cultist may, swap a committed component of their choice with one from their hand. We'll talk about committing components and how the ritual works during that phase. Leonard Washington says on the next ritual phase, the cult leader draws 2 rituals and chooses one to play and one to discard. John Truman says a cultist of your choice must discard their hand and draw back to full. Jack and Lucky say that you can show your background to a cultist of your choice. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to take our 3 cards with art, and then we're going to randomly pick 2 here. Sure, James, and we'll pick Leonard Washington. And then we're just going to shuffle these guys up and then give one to every player. So we'll be playing Mr. Jimmy Gonzalez. The player to our left is James Smythe. To their left is Leonard Washington, and then we have Wanda and Regina also in play. At this time, we'll start to use the rest of the cards in the game, but first we have to figure out who our cult leader is. And as it turns out, Miss Wanda Green has joined, will basically be leading the rest of the group to a much celebrated victory. What we'll do now is we'll take all of our component cards and place them in the center of the play area so all players have equal access to them. And then we're going to give all of the ritual cards to our cult leader, all of the ritual success cards to the cult leader, and then the cult leader will take their action cards as well. Finally, to finish setup, deal 3 component cards to every person who is not the cult leader. Place the rest in the middle so that there's a nice draw pile. Now you're set up and ready to play. So let's take a look at how each turn works. Now remember your objective. The acolytes, basically if you got a red background card, you're trying to successfully complete these rituals. The investigators, or anybody with a blue background card, are trying to make sure that the rituals fail. Now, if you play too aggressively, you're going to be found out. If you get caught in a lie, you may get found out. In that turn, the cult leader has the ability to kill you. So you're going to want to play it by ear. You may let a couple rituals pass, or play something that somebody needs you to in order to make sure a ritual goes through without fail. All of the other cultists will basically be trying to make sure that the cult leader knows that they are in no way, shape, or form an investigator, and that adds a lot of really fun player dynamics and table politics. Let's take a look at the turn order of how each turn works. The first phase, the cult leader is going to play an action card from their hand face down on the table. You're actually going to skip this on turn 1, and you'll begin to do this every turn after that. We'll take a look at the cult leader action cards in a moment. The cult leader reveals the ritual. Then the cultist will commit component cards to solve the ritual. And then you get to reveal and resolve the cult leader's action. Again, you're going to skip that on turn 1. Then we resolve the ritual. We check for victory, and then cultists draw another component card. Now, you have a very small hand in this game. You only have 3 cards to manage. So there's a lot to try to do with those 3 cards. But let's take a look at a ritual and the components so we can explain those in more detail. First, the ritual cards are going to have orange backs on them. And we're just going to draw the top one here, and this is the ritual we're going to play. Now, every ritual has a name here. This is the Ritual to the Beyond one, and it has 2 types of requirements. There is a primary requirement and a secondary requirement. And the number of these that need to be committed to resolve these rituals are dependent on the number of cultists that are playing. Remember, a cultist is anybody that is not the cult leader, including the investigators. Also, every ritual has this red bar at the bottom, and there's a chance for an investigator to sow discord. Remember, every turn that the lead investigator is alive still is 1 discord or 1 clue token that you're going to get added towards your victory. This particular ritual, for every elder sign or offering that is committed, you get to gain an additional clue token. This handy reference card here, a 5-player game says that with 5 players, we need 3 acolytes. The acolytes need to complete 3 rituals, and the investigators need to acquire 6 clue tokens in order to win. So it's a race. First one to either get one of these is going to win. Again, the cult also has the secondary objective of if they happen to kill all of the investigators, in a 5-player game, it's just the lead investigator, they will win the game. So our ritual is going to be the Beyond one. Now let's take a look at the types of components that are in the game. Blue-backed component cards are designed to be nefarious things that the cult needs in order to appease the Outer Gods. One of the things here are offerings. It looks like a chalice. Then we have ruins, which are these old stone tablets. We have artifacts here, which are to a crazy tentacled god. And then we have tomes, which are books of mysterious power. Finally, we have elder signs. Elder signs are meant to keep the bad stuff away. So the cult never wants to see an elder sign. So anytime an elder sign is committed and not removed from play, you're going to generate 1 clue for the investigators. So any number of these cards can be in your hand, and you're going to have 3 of them to work with. So let's take a look at the 3 cards I was dealt at the beginning of the game. Beginning of the game, I've got an artifact, a ruin, and an elder sign. And if we remember, I have the Eldritch Seeker background card. And that says, if I have a ruin in my hand, which I do, I have to commit it. Once the ritual is revealed, everybody is going to then basically, we want to try to encourage as much talking amongst each other as possible. So after a short period of time of deliberation, accusations, stating your defense, we want to essentially attempt to complete this ritual. Remember, with the Beyond one, we need, ruins and tomes. And for a 5-player game, we need 2 of the primary and 1 secondary component in order to get this right. So with this, we'll need 2 ruins and 1 tome. We don't want any sort of elder signs or offerings. The game is about information. We know without a shadow of doubt that Wanda is good. Wanda is our cult leader. We know that she's not going to try to sink this. We also know that we are the Eldritch Seeker, which means that we have to commit this component. The good thing is that the ritual that we're trying to complete right now, that is one of our primary components. So to commit a component card from your hand, you take 1, you put it face down, and once you put it on the table, it is committed. There are no take-backsies here. So everybody's going to do that with one of the cards in their hand. So let's take a look here. So I can actually tell you what I'm committing. Doesn't necessarily mean I'm telling the truth. So I can say, hey guys, I'm putting in a rune here. The player to the left can say, you know what, I've got the tome if somebody else has got a rune and commits that. The next player has really nothing to help. But they are, in fact, a disciple. So they may say, you know what, I don't have anything that's really going to help us. So what I'll do here is I'll put in something that won't hurt us. And then we have Miss Regina Walters, who it turns out is our lead investigator. Now, the lead investigator has a couple things here that they can do. One, they can play it safe. We can say, hey, you know what? I've got this offering. I may be able to play that and sync it. But right now, we're not resolving this ritual, just based on the information we've gathered, if everybody who put in their component is telling the truth. So Regina has a choice. Regina can either put in the offering, say that it's something else, and try to get by. She can try to disguise herself as the type of background that must put in the offering, or she can put in something to help. The tome won't generate any extra discord and therefore give us any clue tokens. And the ruin will basically allow the ritual to go through successfully. So depending on how Regina wants to play this thing, she can play very safe and go ahead and let the ritual go through. Remember, if the cult happens to fix 3 rituals, they win the game. Let's say she doesn't want to do that, but she doesn't necessarily want to throw an offering in. She's going to go ahead and commit the tome. And she's going to tell everybody, you know what, guys, all I have is this tome. The rest is bad stuff, and we don't want to have any bad things to happen to us, right? Because, again, Regina, to everybody else, is just as guilty as everyone else. So there's already a lot of suspicion on everybody at the table. At any point of the game, a player can use their unique identity card. So if I wanted to, as Jimmy, if I thought maybe Leonard over here was being suspicious, I could use this ability here. And then take a look at this card. Now, this is private knowledge to me, and I can just basically suss if Jimmy is telling the truth or not. Excuse me, if Leonard is. So right now, I don't necessarily want to do that, so we're going to let that stand. After a moment where all players have committed their cards and everyone has decided whether or not they want to use one of their abilities, the cult leader will scoop all of the cards here, give them a very good shuffle, and then reveal next to the ritual what we have. So we have one tome, one artifact, another tome, and another rune. Now, the rune is basically going to not satisfy our primary condition, because we needed 2 of those, and the secondary condition is met because we got at least 1 tome. The artifact doesn't do anything since it doesn't neither help or hurt us. So this right here is not a success. We're going to put that to the side. These cards get discarded. All players get an additional card at the end of the turn. So basically, since Regina is our lead investigator, she's still alive. She's going to generate 1 clue towards the good guys. Any sort of counter here will work. It is a stretch goal of ours to be able to add some tokens and things to the game to help kind of flesh it out and make it a little bit bigger. But right now, write it on a piece of paper, use dice, whatever you need to do. So we have 1 victory point for the investigators. Not off to a great start here. We check for victory. Neither team has won since we need 6 clues and or 3 rituals for the game to be over. All cultists now get another card that they'll be able to play for next turn. Now, every subsequent turn is going to function the same way, with the exception that now that we're into the second turn, the cult leader's action pile is now available. We're going to take a look at these. The white back cards are the cult leader's actions. The cult leader has unique actions that can be played once. Once the card is played, it is put into the discard pile. And once all of the cards have played and all the cards rest in the discard pile, you'll be able to take all of your actions back and play any that you want. Now, those actions are as follows. The first of which is Bide. Basically, nothing happens. It's a bluff card that you may want to try to play to either buy you more time if you don't have enough information, or to play to try to trick somebody into doing something you're not expecting them to. The next card is Sacrifice. You choose a cultist and sacrifice him or her. The sacrifice cultist discards their committed component and their hand without revealing them, and then reveals their background to the rest of the cult. Basically, if you die, you are out of the game. This is a really fun mechanic here, and played with the pathological liar can cause a lot of really good times. The wild card here. This allows the cult leader to commit any one random wild component that is needed. So in the case before we played the last turn, if this had been on the second turn and this card was played, when resolved, this could have taken the place of the missing rune that we needed. Finally, we have the Inspect action. Inspect allows the cult leader to reveal any one cultist committed card. So at the start of the second turn, what the cult leader is going to do is going to choose and secretly put down and commit one of their action cards. Nobody knows what the cult leader committed besides the cult leader. Now, the cult leader can try to bluff what that is. They can straight up say what it is. Hey, I'm going to sacrifice and I'm going to kill James here because I'm really upset that James did not do what he needed to. Poor James. All right, now we move into round 2. So starting with the first action, the cult leader has already committed their action. So we're going to reveal the ritual. This is the ritual for the source of uncleanliness. Our primary component are artifacts. We need 2 of those. The secondary component are offerings. And anytime a elder sign or a rune is played, we gain 1 clue, which is not great. Let's see what we have. Knowing what we are, okay, good. We don't have anything here in our hand that's going to hurt us, since we are a good cult. A good cultist, rather. In fact, we have either ability. So whenever we did the last turn, it almost made it seem like everybody has to do it in turn order, but anybody can commit components at any time. So maybe Regina wants to get in really quick and see it. And maybe she's going to say, gosh, I can put this offering in, but I need more points. So I'm going to go ahead and put in a ruin. But she says she's going to put in an offering. So she's going to satisfy this other component, according to us. We're going to go ahead and commit an artifact, because we're about to win this game. Our buddy over here, James, only can put in an offering, because the other 2 cards are elder signs in their hand. So they're going to put that one in. And then finally, we have 2 offerings and 2 offerings and 2 artifacts on the table according to public knowledge. The other guy is going to take, we don't have the other artifact. But again, everything else is going to hurt us, so they're going to go ahead and put this in as well. So we have 3 offerings. So let's say that somebody wants to use one of their abilities. Regina wants to go ahead and try to add some suspicion onto Leonard. Regina is going to use her special ability that lets her look at any cultist's hand. Once you use your card, you're going to go ahead and flip it over. It's no longer able to be played. And she's going to take a look at the remaining cards. In it are a ruin and an elder sign. Now, since we put the other card in as Regina, a ruin, we can say, wait a second, there's an artifact in this hand. Leonard's a bad guy. And we know at that point, all that suspicion is going to be on there. So depending on who you're playing against, Leonard may be able to fight back and say, absolutely not. My cards are here, and they're these. And I'm not telling a lie. So depending on how well they can make that argument, it may save Leonard's life next turn. Once all cards are committed, every player has the option to play additional cards, use their identity abilities. We're going to go ahead and reveal what the cult leader committed, which was a wild card. So from here, we're going to gather up all the cards. We're going to give them a shuffle. We have an offering. We have an artifact. We have a ruin. Somebody did not tell the truth, and we have an offering. Since the cult leader played a wild card, that's going to satisfy the additional artifact that we needed. So this is a success. Even though that this was played, it's still a success. So we get the point. If you get the ritual, you're going to take a card from the success deck and resolve it as soon as we calculate the other points. Now, the lead investigator is still alive at the table, so that's immediately 1 point for them, bringing their total score to 2. And a rune was played, and that is a source of discord for this ritual. So we are at a total of 3. All of these cards get scooped, put back in the stack, and we take a ritual success card. The ritual card, success card that we got is Gotha. This says that the cult leader may pick a player to recover their identity ability. Now it says may, meaning they don't have to. Now last turn there was a bit of things going on here at the table where Regina has basically called out Leonard. Leonard has made a strong case. We'll go ahead and add this. This is going to show that we have one successful ritual that's been completed. So we'll put that there next to the cult leader. So the only card here that can be reused is Regina's ability. So we can go ahead and let her do that again if we think that she's telling the truth. But if we don't and we want to side with Leonard, we cannot. In this case, we'll say that Regina made a very compelling case. And we'll go ahead and reuse her ability. And that's how the game is played. You're going to keep doing this until the investigators have all been killed or until one side reaches their total amount of victory. And that's it. That's how you play the game. There's a couple sample rounds for a 5-player setup. The game is going to play whether you have 5 players or 10 players. The more the merrier with Outer Gods. We really hope you guys enjoy this one. And come Halloween, hope you consider backing it on Kickstarter. Thank you so much, and game on.